Hi everybody, welcome back to another Dead City video. This is for episode 7 of season 2. This episode was very interesting. I like parts of it, especially the parts with Maggie and the Croat. Parts with Negan, not so much, because there really wasn't much context to Negan deciding he was going to go back to being brutal Negan who Lucille'd everybody. So I didn't see where in the script it called for Negan to return to his old self. I didn't see how the hallucinations with his wife Lucille and his current wife would cause him to want to line everybody up again. But I'm going to get into that in another video. This video is going to focus on Maggie and Croat, the similarities that exist between them, how they were able to be vulnerable with each other, and also they've come to an understanding. And I think for Maggie, it was necessary. I think Maggie needed to just let it all hang out because she has always been the one who has been tough, the one everybody would lean on. And she has no one to lean on herself. So in a way, Croat let her lean on him, which I found very interesting. So let's get into this episode. The episode begins with Maggie going to the theater to see if Hershel went to see the Dama. Now, Hershel in the last episode had disappeared. And Maggie spoke with Negan. And Negan said, well, maybe he went to the theater where the Dama is. He told Maggie the Dama died in a fire and that Hershel won't find her because she's dead, but that's probably where he went. We see her walk in the Dama's room. I guess it was her living room. There is music playing. So Maggie goes over and she sees there's a warped record playing on an old record player, and she stops the music. She sees the Dama's burned body on the floor, and she sees Croat sitting in a chair nearby, looking kind of depressed. He's looking at Dama's body, and she starts speaking to Croat, and she says, I'm looking for my son. Where is Hershel? And Croat says, I have no idea. So she holds a knife to Croat's neck and threatens to cut pieces off of him if she doesn't tell him where her son is. So he says, okay, I think I can help you. He takes her to the room that Hershel had been staying in while he was captured by them. She's looking around the room and she said, this is where my son stayed. And Croat said, yeah. And she said, why did you cut off his toe? How could you do something like that? And he said, well, he gave it up willingly. Once the Dama explained why she needed his toe, he allowed me to cut his toe off. When the Croat said that, Maggie really looked like she was going to be sick. She looked ill. She had to lean on something. She was really horrified at the thought that Hershel would allow someone to cut his toe off. So Maggie realizes how much Hershel has changed, that he's not the kid that she thought he was, that he has become someone else. How could he allow the Dama to cut his toe off? So for Maggie, this was very upsetting. And like I said, she was leaning on something to balance her. She looked like she was going to be ill. So then the Croat picks up a drawing that Hershel did of the Sky Bridge. I have a feeling I know where he is. There is a safe house there. So he brings Maggie to this building that has the Sky Bridge, and it's a very tall building, maybe 30 floors. And he says, okay, we're going to go up there. And you could see the look on Maggie's face. She looks apprehensive. And then they're climbing the stairs. There are booby traps set on every staircase. And Croat's telling her, watch out for the wires, don't step on the wires. And she said to the Croat, did you booby trap this? And he says, yeah, I did it a while ago. I don't remember where all the wires are, but we have to be careful. They're walking up, and as they get higher and higher, Maggie looks over the railing and she sees how high up they are. And she starts to experience some anxiety. You could see it on her face. She seems to be afraid of heights, which is something that we've never seen before in this character. We've never seen her act this way. It could be because she's never really been in a very tall building before. I was thinking about that after I watched it. But it really is out of character to see Maggie become so anxious about being high up, because we've seen her in places in The Walking Dead where she was high up. She was in a tower. She was hanging from a ladder and the walkers were trying to pull her down. We've seen her high up, but maybe not this high up. We see Maggie as having some anxiety now. So she and the Croat are climbing higher and higher. Again, she keeps looking down, and you can see how visibly apprehensive she is and scared, actually. And the Croat said to her, it's funny about heights. He said, it's not that people are afraid of falling. People are afraid of jumping so that they can be with the people that have passed away, loved ones that have gone. So he's implying that he thinks that that's more of a suicidal ideation to think about jumping versus falling. He had a very interesting take on it, and we find out later on in the episode why that is. Maggie, unfortunately, steps on one of the wires, and it sets off a mace flying at her head. Thankfully, it didn't hit her. Croat said, I told you not to move. And of course, Maggie looks absolutely startled by this. So they get up on the 20th floor, and Croat takes her into, this is actually an office building, and he takes her into an office, and you see this, I don't know how many cubicles are there. There's many. It's a very small, it's actually very suffocating because you can't see beyond you. You can't see in front of you. You can't see to the side because everywhere you look, it's a cubicle wall. So for Maggie, this was very disorienting, I think. And we start to see her again look visibly anxious. She even looks tired at points, like she could just fall asleep. And the Croat said to her, oh, maybe you want to sleep. And she says, no, I'm all right. But we can see there's a difference in Maggie. And, as viewers, we're thinking, what's wrong with Maggie? Maggie has been through so many things, and she's never acted this way before. It's kind of out of character for her. But we see her being very apprehensive. Sure enough, some walkers come from around the corner and go to attack her, and she has to, with a knife, she stabs them in the head. But the problem is, in this place, you don't know where the walkers are coming from because there's too many cubicles. So I think that's part of it. Part of it is Maggie is very high up in a building that she's never probably gone up that high before. Don't forget, she grew up on a farm. And then if you're in the forest, you could see the walkers coming around you. But here you can't see anything. That's another thing. She doesn't know where the walkers are coming from. That adds to her anxiety. I feel that she was actually starting to have a panic attack. Not knowing where the walkers are, feeling claustrophobic in this office space where there was all these cubicles around her. And she knows she's very high up on the 20th floor. And she can't find Hershel. And I think that really was what was driving it the most. She could not find Hershel. She doesn't know where Hershel is. She finds out that Hershel willingly allowed the Croat to cut off his toe. Maggie feels that she's losing Hershel. She may have lost him already, that there's something wrong with him. And she feels perhaps that she has failed as a mother. She has failed to protect him. And I think all of these thoughts in her head are making her feel more anxious and perhaps contributing to her disorientation and her panicky feelings. And I think this is why we haven't seen this before in Maggie. It's extenuating circumstances. So, getting back to the office space. So, Croat says, be quiet, because he sees that there are walkers all around them. And Maggie is growing more tired as time goes on. She could barely keep her eyes open. And I think that has to do also the fact that she is sleep deprived. She has not slept in quite a while. The last episode, she was fighting a bear. She was talking to Hershel. Hershel left. She went to see Negan. Maggie has been up for maybe 2 days for all we know. It's been a while. She's definitely sleep deprived, which is making it worse for her. She wants to sleep, but she can't sleep because she has to find Hershel. So unfortunately, she does conk out because she's exhausted. Then we find her waking up on a couch The Croat must have caught her when she fainted, and he put her on a couch so she could sleep. And he's fixing her flashlight for her. And he's telling her that he has an engineering background and that nobody ever believed in him, including himself, except his mother. His mother was the only person who supported him and felt that he would do very well as an engineer. And he spoke very highly of his mother, and that one day he hoped to go back to Croatia to see her again. So then Maggie and Croat continue to walk around this office space, and he leads her to the Skyway. And Maggie sees the Skyway, she looks down, and she's terrified. Terrified to walk on the skywalk. But she starts to walk, but again, you can see the signs of her anxiety building up. At one point, she has to lean against a wall because she feels like she's going to faint. She feels very weak. And while she's leaning against the wall, these walkers come up from behind her. And again, she has to put them down. And it just adds to her fears because her adrenaline is pumping. She has to fight the walkers. She has to live. She has to survive. But at the same time, it's taking a lot out of her. And you can see it. At one point, one of the walkers falls on top of her. She stabs the walker, and then she turns around on the floor, and she's looking through the glass, and she could see how high up she actually is. And then the glass starts to crack because all these walkers start coming towards her, and the weight of the walkers is cracking the glass. The Croat holds out his hand to her. He says, "Come on, you got to get up. You got to move." And she's paralyzed, can't move. And he said to her, just pretend like you're on a lake. Just spread out your arms and legs to distribute your weight. And she does that. But the walkers behind her are pulling her back. They're pulling her feet. So he finds a ladder and he slides it over to her. And she grabs onto the ladder just in time because the glass breaks below her. And all the walkers fall down. But thankfully, she's holding on to the ladder. So that saved her life. But you can see how shaken she is by this experience, how much it took out of her. So then the Croat brings her across the sky bridge and they walk into the next building. And she sees an area where Croat hangs out, I guess. There's a couch there and he has his mother's ashes and a photograph of his mother, and he starts showing it to her. And Maggie realizes his mother is dead. And it's before he was saying he was going to go to Croatia and see her. So he lied. And she said to him, "You told me Hershel was here. You lied to me." And he said, "Yes, I did." So she gets angry and she grabs him. She goes, "Why did you do that to me? Why did you lie to me? Why did you bring me here? Did you think this was a joke or something?" And he said, "No, it's not a joke." She then pushes him towards the open window and grabs onto him with one hand. And you can see he's half out the window. And she's yelling at him. And he willingly looks like he wants to die. He puts his arms out and he's like, "Oh, just drop me." And Maggie realizes that he has a death wish. He wants to die. And now we understand better why he made that comment to her in the stairwell about looking down, because it's not that you're afraid, it's because you're thinking of jumping. Because he is thinking of jumping. He wants to end his life. So then Maggie pulls the Croat back in the window as she starts staring out the window herself, and she's looking down. And you can see a look on her face, a moment of thinking, if I jump right now, this all ends, all of it. I don't have to worry about living in this apocalyptic world with these walkers. I can see Glen again. I could see my dad. I could see my sister, my mom, everybody. For that brief glimpse of time, I think Maggie thought about it. I think she thought it would be easier to just die, to just fall off, to jump off, to end it all. And she and the Croat were in the exact same place in that moment. He felt that way and she felt that way. So then Croat pulls her back in. And they had a moment together of understanding each other, that they both were thinking of ending their lives, no matter how briefly it was for Maggie. But it seems that Croat has been thinking about this for a while. So he tells her about how he's gone into this building many times after he first came to New York City. And he has wanted to jump, but he could never do it. He couldn't do it. He said he would wander the streets aimlessly, and then one day he saw a candlelight in the window, and that's when he met the Dama. And he said the Dama took him in. In a way, she was like a mother to him. He mentioned his own mother left when he was 12 years old. She left him. We don't know where she went, but she left him. And he didn't really explain any more than that, but that she died recently. He found her, and she was dead for, I think, a couple of days. I don't know how old he was when he found her. He didn't really go into that. But the impression he gave was that his mother left him when he was young. She was the only one that really believed in him. Her death was devastating. But anyway, the Dama took him in. He said, she was able to understand me. She was able to read me. She understood where I came from and what I needed. And that was absolutely true. The Dama is very good at reading people. And she read that he needed a mom. He needed somebody who could understand him. And in a way, she became his mother. So that's why he was so devastated when she died. He feels responsible. He feels he could have saved her and he didn't. This made him think of dying again, that he wanted to die. And when Maggie came in and confronted him, he said, okay, she can kill me and I can stop living this horrible life. And it's interesting how they both came to this realization together. He could have ended her during that scene on the sky bridge. He didn't have to save her. He could have let her die. And she could have let him die too. She could have killed him or let him die. But she didn't. And that was a very interesting camaraderie they developed. So he's telling her his mom died. He misses his mother, and she was the only one that believed in him. And while they're talking, Maggie looks out the window, and she sees a light blinking. And she realizes this is the signal that she and Hershel have, that they had developed many years ago. So she saw the flashing light, and she said, that's where he is. The Croat takes her to the building, and ironically, it says the New York Times building. It's ironic because the Dama was a critic, a play critic for the Times. And that's where she ends up in the building. It's like maybe that was her old office, who knows? But I thought that was very interesting. So Croat says goodbye to Maggie. He shakes her hand. She said, aren't you coming up? He says, no, it's between you and your son. And I wish you the best. And he means it, because Croat even said to Maggie a little earlier, he said, you're a good mother. And you must have had a good mother too. In a sense, Croat looked at Maggie as a surrogate mother as well during this whole journey they took together. She symbolized a mother that he needed. And when he saved her in the sky bridge, I believe at that moment he was her dad. He was Hershel, her dad. He threw her the ladder. He reassured her. He says, just spread out on the ice. He tried to calm her down. At that moment, Maggie was vulnerable, and she looked to him to save her, and he did. So they became a parental figure for each other at that moment, which I found very interesting. Getting back to Maggie, let's talk a minute about her history. Her father was Hershel. Her mother died when she was very young, something that happened with Croat as well. They have that in common. Both of them lost their mothers at young ages. We don't know anything about Croat's dad, but we know Maggie's dad very well from The Walking Dead. Hershel was a veterinarian. He also had started drinking after her mother died, but then he remarried. He stopped drinking, and Maggie had a very close relationship with him. She also had a half-sister, Beth, that she was very close to. Then she met Glen, and she and Glen married, and then she had Hershel, baby Hershel. But Maggie has gone through a lot of trauma since the apocalypse, before the apocalypse and after the apocalypse, losing her mom at a young age, and then seeing her father brutally murdered right in front of her. during the apocalypse by the governor on The Walking Dead. The governor just cut off Hershel's head. He decapitated him. She screamed. Can you imagine seeing your father decapitated in front of you? Her sister Beth was killed. She didn't see it happen, but she saw Beth's body afterwards. She screamed. Glen. She saw her husband Glen, the love of her life, murdered brutally in front of her by Negan. So Maggie has been through tremendous trauma, which she has had to push it away in order to survive living in an apocalyptic world. She could not focus on her traumas. She had to be strong. She had to be tough. She had to fight for everything. She had to kill walkers. She had to fight human beings. She had to fight to survive. And when Hershel came around, she was fiercely protective of her child, but she also continued to represent the Hilltop community, and she still was going out on runs, and she still was in charge. So in a sense, maybe Hershel did lose some quality time with her because of that. We don't know because we didn't see a lot of that. But Maggie has been through a lot. This is the first time we have seen Maggie vulnerable. And with the Croat, she was able to be vulnerable because they understood each other in that moment. She leaned on him, literally. She needed that ladder, and he gave it to her. She leaned on him, and she needed that. And he needed her. So when they said goodbye, you could see the Croat felt better. He was smiling. I didn't get the sense that he wanted to die anymore. Just like I don't think Maggie wanted to die anymore. I think they healed each other in that moment. So Croat leaves, and Maggie goes in the New York Times building, and lo and behold, she does find Hershel there. He is signaling with his flashlight out the window. He turns around, and he sees Maggie, and he's like, Mom, you came. I'm so glad you saw our signal. So she's hugging him. She says, I'm really sorry about what's happened, and I'm glad you're okay. He says, I'm glad you came. He said, everything is going to be okay now, everything. And then he looks to the side, and who comes out of the shadows? The Dama. It turns out the Dama did not die. She's very much alive. Her neck is burned. Half her hair is burnt. Definitely was harmed in the fire, but she survived the fire. We have to wonder how that happened. I mean, I have a theory that she was able to get out from under the furniture that fell on her after the Croat left the room. And she realized she had to stage her own death because she felt the Croat wanted to kill her, and possibly Negan also wanted to kill her. So she figured maybe she grabbed a walker from somewhere and threw the walker in the fire. So they would think that that was her dead body in there. And that's how I think she got away with this. But Hershel knew where to find her. What's sad about this is Hershel planned this with the Dama to purposely signal Maggie so that Maggie would come there and in a way trap Maggie. And the Dama actually hits Maggie on the head and Maggie falls unconscious. We don't know what she hit her with, but she hit her with something. Hershel brought his mother there for the Dama to knock her out and to capture her. What's going on with Hershel? This is awful. This is horrible. This is her child. How could he do this to his mother? We have to wonder what is going on with Hershel. Is it that he's just some teenage, unruly kid that's angry and he's acting out? Or is there something deeper going on here? I think it's something deeper. I think Hershel has some kind of psychosis. I also think he is depressed, but he definitely has psychotic tendencies because we haven't seen enough of the Dama, how she could have brainwashed him to this extent. I mean, we all know about Stockholm Syndrome, when a person is captured and they learn to love their captor. That possibly is playing in here, but, we haven't seen real evidence of this, though. The Dama, all she really did for him was give him paper and pencils to draw with and spoke to him and was nice to him. But I didn't see how she brainwashed him to the point where he would willingly allow the Croat to cut off his toe. I mean, that's not something that a rational person would allow to happen. And then in the museum, he was going to poison the water and kill people. That's not something somebody would just do. So there's something going on with Hershel. I would say he shows psychotic tendencies, absolutely. I don't see how he can be redeemed at this point. What's interesting about the connection between Hershel and the Croat, I like what the Croat said. The Dama was able to read him. We know that the Croat is psychotic. Like I said, he's able to kill. He has no remorse. He said the Dama could read him. So what does this mean? The Dama can read people. She can read Hershel. And maybe Hershel is very similar to the Croat. And the Dama herself is psychotic. So she's able to see it and use it for her own self-interests, which is what I think is happening with Hershel right now. The question is, where do we go from here? How is Hershel ever going to redeem himself? I personally think, so coming up, episode 8, I can see Maggie actually killing the Dama and Hershel going ballistic and refusing to go back with Maggie to the bricks, to stay in the city and maybe continue what the Dama was doing, taking the Dama's place. I can see Hershel going to the dark side more than he already has. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I hope you enjoyed my theories, and please like and subscribe to my channel. Leave your comments below. I would like to know what you think. Do you agree with my analysis, or do you feel differently? Thank you again, and I will see you in the next video soon.